Hey babe, I need to talk to you about something that has been weighing so heavily on my chest that it feels like every breath I take drags a chain behind it. For months, maybe longer, I have been rehearsing this conversation in my mind, wondering when, wondering how, wondering whether the courage I need would ever actually show up. Tonight it has, shaky and inadequate though it may be. So I'm going to lay myself bare and trust that whatever follows will at least be real. You have always seen me as steady, as the person who keeps promises, remembers the little details, and shows up 5 minutes early because your time is sacred to me. In your eyes, I became reliable and trustworthy, maybe even admirable. But underneath that carefully curated portrait is a version of me I have kept hidden, a shadow self that makes choices fueled by fear rather than integrity. I am terrified that when you meet that person, you might decide you no longer want any version of me at all. It began innocently, or at least I told myself that. A white lie here, a detail skipped there, tiny cracks that seemed harmless in isolation. I was overwhelmed at work, drowning in deadlines, terrified of failing in front of people who were counting on me, including you. One late night, I doctored a project timeline to make it look like I had delivered a milestone on schedule. No one noticed, and the relief that washed over me in that moment felt like salvation. The problem with false salvation is that it demands worship. Before long, I was offering sacrifice after sacrifice at the altar of convenience, convincing myself I was protecting us both. Soon the lies weren't confined to spreadsheets and status updates. They seeped into our home, into the stories I told you about where I'd been and what I'd done. I remember telling you I was working late when, in truth, I sat in my car 2 blocks away staring at the steering wheel, paralyzed by anxiety, unable to face either the office or our apartment. I spent that night scrolling mindlessly through social media, hunting for distraction, hunting for anything that would quiet the roaring in my head. It didn't work. Guilt just changed its costume and kept talking. In the middle of that chaos, I stumbled into a chat room meant for music nerds. There was someone there, let's call her Lena, who laughed at the same obscure lyrics I quoted. Our conversations felt harmless at first. Playlists, album art rants, ridiculous debates about whether vinyl really sounds warmer. But late one evening, after too much cheap coffee and too little sleep, we drifted into confessions of loneliness. She told me she felt unseen. I told her I felt like an imposter. Digital empathy blurred into flirtation, and before I realized what was happening, I was sharing parts of myself with a stranger that I had never dared to share with you. I need you to understand that I never met Lena in person, never touched her hand, never tangled my fingers in her hair. Still, I know emotional fidelity matters, and I shattered it. Every time I minimized the chat window when you walked into the room, I chose secrecy over honesty. Every time I deleted a thread so our archive would stay clean, I was chiseling away at the trust we built brick by brick. Eventually, even Lena realized it was wrong. She told me to fix my life and blocked me without ceremony. The silence she left behind felt like stepping into an empty cathedral where every footstep echoes your wrongdoing. Around the same time, the quarterly performance review at work drew closer. I was afraid my project numbers would expose my earlier fabrications, so I doubled down, adjusted metrics, inflated cost savings, forged client signatures. I justified it by telling myself I was buying time to correct everything. The raise I received because of those numbers paid for the weekend getaway we took to the mountains, the one where we watched the sun rise in silence, and you said it felt like we were standing inside a promise. I stood there too, mesmerized by pastel clouds, but my promise was already broken. I just hadn't told you yet. Do you remember the night we curled up on the couch and swore we would always be honest, even if the truth hurt? You pressed your palm flat against my chest and said, I want to feel your heart without armor. I answered, no secrets, no matter what. And at that moment, I meant it. Yet the very next day, I lied about my schedule. And the day after that, I lied about why I hadn't called during lunch. Promises, it turns out, are not bulletproof. They can bleed. And mine was already hemorrhaging. As weeks turned into months, the dissonance between who you believed I was and who I knew myself to be became unbearable. I started having panic attacks in grocery store aisles, convinced someone would somehow point at me and announce my sins over the loudspeaker. I'd come home sweating, heart racing, invent a story about traffic or a broken elevator just so you wouldn't see how close I was to falling apart. One particularly dark afternoon, I sat in the bathtub fully clothed with the shower running cold, trying to shock myself back into feeling like I deserved to exist. That was the day I realized I needed professional help. I found a therapist 3 towns over. I told you I was joining a lunchtime fitness class, but in reality, I was driving to that tiny office wedged between a bakery and a thrift store, confessing my duplicity to a stranger whose job was to keep listening. The sessions and the hollow sound of my own avoidance. The turning point came 2 weeks ago when our company announced an external audit. I knew the falsified numbers would surface. That night you cooked pasta and lit candles, celebrating what you thought was the beginning of my promotion track. I watched the flame reflection dance in your eyes and felt like I was observing a miracle I didn't deserve. After you fell asleep, I sat on the balcony until dawn, rewriting this confession over and over in my head, each version ending with me losing you. By sunrise, I had decided, hiding any longer would not save us. It would only prolong the inevitable disaster. So this is the inventory of my wrongdoing: emotional infidelity, data manipulation, repeated lies about my whereabouts, and the concealment of my mental health struggle. If there are scales for betrayal, I have piled weights on every side. I wish I could say there's more, just so the worst would already be out. But that is the entirety of it. Ugly, humiliating, mine. I'm not handing you these confessions to beg for instant forgiveness, nor am I trying to shift the pain from my shoulders to yours. I am simply, finally, giving you all the pieces so you can choose what the picture becomes. If your choice is to walk away, I will carry the consequence without argument. If your choice is to stay but establish distance, I will honor every boundary you draw like sacred ground. And if by some grace your choice is to fight for us, I will meet you at the front lines with every resource I have. Tomorrow morning, I will walk into my manager's office and disclose the altered reports. I will accept disciplinary action, reimbursement demands, or termination, whatever justice requires. I have also contacted accounting to arrange repayment of the bonus that was awarded based on false data. The garage sale next weekend, the one we planned just to clear space, will now be to raise funds to set things right. I refuse to let ill-gotten money stain another shared memory. I've scheduled a joint therapy session for next Thursday evening at 6, if you wish to attend. I understand if you're not ready, or if you never will be. Therapy won't erase what I've done, but it can build a language for us to talk about it without causing new wounds in the process. If you decide you'd rather speak to someone separately, I will cover the cost. No questions asked, because your healing should not be limited by my errors. Please allow yourself to feel everything: anger, sadness, betrayal, exhaustion. Throw something if it helps. Scream into the wind. Fill journal pages with curses that include my name. You do not owe me calmness. You do not owe me immediate dialogue. All I ask is that if you have questions, no matter how harsh, you bring them to me so I can answer with unfiltered honesty. Half-truths and strategic silences are dead to me now. For myself, I have made a ruthless promise. No more masks, no matter how ugly the face beneath may feel. Shame is a fungus that only grows in darkness, and I am switching on every light I can find. It will be uncomfortable, even blistering at times, but discomfort is the tax I pay for returning to integrity. I will journal daily, share those entries with my therapist, and if you permit, share summaries with you so you can see the trajectory of my growth. Hope still exists in me, stubborn and surprising. I do not romanticize the work ahead. I see the rubble, and I know rebuilding is sweaty, unglamorous labor. Even if we succeed, the new structure will bear visible seams. But seams can be beautiful reminders that broken things can live again, that love can become wiser even as it becomes more fragile. Before I close, let me tell you what has remained pure in all this corrosion. My gratitude for you. You are the melody that lingers after the song ends, the warmth of sunlight on skin long after the clouds roll in. Every laugh we shared, every secret handshake, every sleepy-eyed road trip playlist, those memories were genuine, even if I was bleeding lies elsewhere. They are why I believe a better version of myself is possible, because I have already tasted what it is like to be loved by someone extraordinary. So I am handing you the whole truth, unvarnished and heavy, like a box of artifacts excavated from a battlefield. Sort through it at your own pace. Keep what you need, discard what you must. Ask me about anything that confuses or enrages you. Whatever you decide, I will honor it, because autonomy and respect are the first bricks in any honest foundation. My final words tonight are simple. I love you. Not the way I demonstrated in my fear, but the way I am choosing to move forward, in daylight, in clarity, in accountability. If you allow it, I will spend however long it takes proving that love worthy of your heart.